stop what you're doing, because today we're discussing a man so ambitious he could smell royal blood from 3 counties away. A man who treated family members like stepping stones, enemies like inconveniences, and loyalty like a seasonal fashion trend. If Tudor England had produced a Professional Schemer of the Year award, this gentleman would have built an entire trophy cabinet. Today, we are talking about the Duke of Norfolk, or, as I prefer to call him, England's most dangerous uncle. Welcome back to Wed and Behead, the only place where family values usually end with someone being arrested. I am Lady Thorn, broadcasting once again from Thornwood Chambers, where Lord Thorn recently attempted to improve our family tree. Unfortunately, he interpreted that as removing all the branches he did not like. Rather Tudor of him, really. Now, pour yourself something strong into a proper goblet. You'll need it, because Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk, spent decades surviving Henry VIII's court while somehow remaining one of the most feared men in England. And, frankly, everyone around him should have been worried. The Howard family weren't merely noble. They were ambitious in a way that should probably require a government warning label. Thomas Howard was born into one of England's most powerful families. But power is like standing on a frozen pond. You may feel secure. You may feel important. But at any moment, the ice can crack beneath your feet, and suddenly you are discussing your future with an executioner. Norfolk understood this, which is why he spent most of his life climbing. Higher, closer, nearer to the throne, always nearer. Now, here's where things become very interesting. Norfolk happened to be the uncle of a certain ambitious young woman named Anne Boleyn. You may have heard of her. Tiny historical footnote. Caused a religious revolution? Lost her head? The usual Tudor Tuesday? When Henry VIII became obsessed with Anne, Norfolk saw opportunity. Not romance. Opportunity. The difference is important. While Henry was writing terrible love letters and behaving like an overgrown teenager, Norfolk was calculating exactly what this relationship might mean for the Howard family. A Howard queen. A Howard dynasty. Howard influence everywhere. The future looked golden for about 5 minutes. Here's the thing about Norfolk. People often imagine him as some loving uncle supporting his niece. Absolutely not. This was Tudor politics, not a family reunion. Norfolk backed Anne because Anne's success benefited Norfolk. The moment her position became dangerous, his enthusiasm cooled faster than leftover mutton. And when Anne was arrested in 1536, Norfolk didn't ride in to save her. He didn't defend her. He did not stand beside her. In fact, he presided over part of the proceedings that led to her destruction. Imagine helping your niece become a queen, then helping clear the path to her execution. Family dinners must have been absolutely dreadful. Now, most people would have considered this a career-ending moral catastrophe. Not Norfolk. He simply carried on, because surviving Henry VIII required a special skill: the ability to watch yesterday's allies become tomorrow's corpses without asking too many questions. Henry changed favorites more often than Lord Thorn changes hobbies. Last month it was falconry. This month it's brewing ale. Last week he nearly burned down his shed. Again, the point is, Norfolk adapted. Every time, he maneuvered, negotiated, shifted alliances, and somehow remained standing while everyone else kept disappearing. Then fate handed Norfolk another opportunity. His young niece Catherine Howard caught Henry's eye. At this point, Norfolk must have looked at the situation and thought, what could possibly go wrong? The answer, as always in Tudor England, was everything. Catherine became queen. The Howard family once again stood near the center of power. And once again, Norfolk imagined a glorious future for his dynasty. And once again, disaster arrived wearing expensive clothing. When Catherine's past relationships became public knowledge, her position collapsed. The scandal exploded. Investigations began. People panicked. Heads started looking very detachable. And what did Norfolk do? Exactly what he'd done before. He distanced himself. Quickly, very quickly. Possibly at Olympic speed. When Catherine fell, Norfolk's primary concern was not rescuing her. It was surviving. Again. One begins to notice a pattern. Anne Boleyn destroyed. Catherine Howard destroyed. Norfolk remains, like a particularly stubborn Tudor cockroach. What made Norfolk truly dangerous wasn't military power, or wealth, or titles. It was patience. He understood court politics better than most people around him. He knew when to advance. He knew when to retreat. And most importantly, he knew when to let somebody else take the blame. The most dangerous people weren't always the loudest. Sometimes they were the men standing quietly in the corner, waiting for everyone else to make mistakes. Norfolk excelled at that game. Unfortunately, he even eventually discovered the truth every Tudor courtier learns. Nobody beats Henry VIII forever. Nobody. By the final years of Henry's reign, Norfolk had accumulated enemies, lots of them. Enough enemies to populate a medium-sized village. In 1546, he was arrested for treason. The old master of survival finally found himself trapped. His son, Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, was executed. Norfolk himself was sentenced to death. And this was it. The end. The final chapter. The executioner's axe was waiting. Everything was finished. Except Henry died the night before Norfolk's scheduled execution. Talk about timing. Imagine surviving decades of Tudor politics only to be saved because the king inconveniently died first. That is not luck. That is supernatural levels of survival. So, was Norfolk a genius? A villain? A survivor? Yes. The answer is yes. He spent his life chasing power. He helped elevate queens. He watched those queens fall. he maneuvered through some of the deadliest years in English history. And while almost everyone around him ended up imprisoned, ruined, or executed, he somehow kept escaping, until eventually even he ran out of road. If ambition had a face, it might well have been wearing Norfolk's expression. And if Tudor England taught us anything, it's that the most dangerous people aren't always sitting on the throne. Sometimes they are standing right beside it, smiling, waiting, calculating, and wondering whose turn comes next. Next time on Wed BEHEAD, we're discussing a man who possessed all the good judgment of a lit candle in a gunpowder store. Thomas Seymour, brother of Queen Jane Seymour, husband of Catherine Parr, professional flirt, part-time schemer, full-time disaster. He charmed queens, chased princesses, annoyed politicians, and somehow convinced himself he was cleverer than everyone around him. Spoiler alert, he was not. If Tudor England had invented warning labels, Thomas Seymour would have needed several. So join me next time as we uncover the story of the man who flirted his way straight to the executioner's block. Trust me, this one is gloriously chaotic. Now, until then, remember to keep your crown straight and your head attached.